Imagine this, right? The bright, iconic lights of Hollywood. Maybe it started to dim just a little in LA. And then suddenly, they flicker on, kind of unexpectedly, in Nashville, Tennessee. That's almost like a movie plot itself, doesn't it? But this is the real situation we're diving into today. And it seems to be driven by, well, two huge names, Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon. So our mission today is to take all this material we've gathered, industry reports, local news, economic stuff, and really unpack this potential. You might call it a Hollywood exodus to Nashville. We need the facts. What are the economic drivers, the tax incentives pulling production south? And maybe even more critically, what are the big hurdles Nashville has to overcome? Because let's face it, competing with the West Coast is a massive undertaking. This isn't just talk, it feels like a concrete plan unfolding.
Yeah, and what's striking is how real and immediate it feels. It's not just an idea floating around. It's being pushed by people who actually live there. Kidman, for instance, she's been a Nashville resident since, 2008. So there's a personal stake there, not just professional. And she was pretty direct about it at the Nashville Film Festival. She actually said, and I'm quoting here, "I'll be bringing more and more production here." You know, a statement like that from someone with her clout, that's not just fluff. It sends a real signal through the industry.
Exactly. And we're already seeing, actual results on the ground, which proves it's more than just wishful thinking.
Right.
Look at the crime drama Scarpetta. Kidman's involved with that, right?
Yeah.
Season 1 was filmed entirely in Nashville. Done deal. And now Season 2 is confirmed to shoot there as well. That's a huge commitment for a big series. It basically tells every studio exec, look, Nashville works for long-term, high-budget TV.
It's a major signal, yeah. And the economic impact, that's immediate. That's the whole point of these state incentives, really. Kidman's recent movie, Holland, Michigan, filmed there. The money flowed straight into local businesses. And it's not just actors and crew, like you might think. We're talking caterers, lumber yards for sets, construction, security, and crucially, hotels, transport, short-term rentals. The whole hospitality sector gets a piece. It's that quick injection of outside cash that state governments love.
Okay, so the commitment's real, the immediate impact is there, but let's step back from Kidman and Witherspoon's personal connections for a sec.
Right.
Why Nashville? I mean, they could take production anywhere with good incentives, Canada, the UK, other U.S. states. What makes Music City specifically so appealing for film and TV?
It really seems to be a mix of things. Economics, logistics, and just how it looks on screen. Economically, Tennessee offers, well, pretty solid tax incentives. The details can change, but often it's about transferable tax credits, meaning the production company gets a credit for spending in-state. If they can't use it all, they can actually sell it for cash. That's a big financial draw. Then there's logistics. Nashville has space. LA is, let's be honest, incredibly crowded and expensive. Finding sound stages, shooting on location. It's a nightmare of permits and traffic there. Nashville offers room to grow, room to build. That's something coastal hubs just don't have anymore. And the third piece, maybe overlooked sometimes, is the fresh locations thing. Audiences, they get tired of seeing the same Vancouver streets standing in for New York or LA pretending to be a small town somewhere. Nashville and Tennessee offer visuals that haven't been seen a million times. That appeals to directors looking for something authentic, new.
Right. Which naturally leads to the big comparison.
Yeah.
The question that keeps coming up in all the analysis we looked at, could Nashville actually become the next Atlanta?
Ah, yes. The Atlanta comparison. That is the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? Georgia, they basically wrote the playbook for this. Aggressive tax breaks weren't enough on their own. They committed to building the infrastructure, the sound stages, the support businesses, and that turned Atlanta into an absolute powerhouse. We're talking Marvel movies, The Walking Dead, huge, long-running productions. That kind of massive, stable production base is what Nashville's ultimately aiming for, I think.
But it's a huge leap, right? Going from being a viable location, which Nashville clearly is becoming, to being a truly established global hub like Atlanta. That's where the real challenge lies. Nashville seems to be starting quite a bit behind in that race. So what are the main hurdles? What does it take to close that gap?
The competition is fierce. That's the first dose of realism. States like Georgia, even North Carolina, they've been in this incentive game for longer. They often have bigger tax breaks already in place and, critically, decades of infrastructure development that Tennessee doesn't have yet. Incentives might land you a show like Scarpetta for a season or two, but keeping those massive, ongoing blockbuster projects, that requires more than just a tax credit. Nashville needs serious capital investment, probably billions, realistically, and it needs to hit three areas at once. First, sound stages. Proper ones, not just warehouses. These are huge, purpose-built, climate-controlled, soundproof facilities essential for big movies. Second, post-production. Editing suites, sound mixing studios, visual effects houses. You can't just hope a top-tier editing team will find what they need locally overnight. And third, Workforce training, building a deep bench of experienced local crew. Grips, gaffers, camera operators, the whole skilled labor force.
That distinction is so important, isn't it? Being a place where people shoot versus a place where the industry lives. And it all hangs on that infrastructure. If Nashville doesn't build it, they're always just one tax policy change away from losing productions. Which brings us to maybe the most ambitious idea floating around. This concept that Kidman and Witherspoon might not just be relying on the state, that maybe they're trying to create their own sort of vertical mini studio system right there in Nashville.
Yeah, it's a fascinating theory. It goes way beyond just bringing in a few projects. It's about building a whole self-sustaining ecosystem, a pipeline for local talent, training them, keeping them there, essentially creating a Southern Hollywood. And think about the potential synergy, blending Nashville's incredible music scene, the studios, musicians, publishers with film production. Imagine the possibilities for original scores, sound design. That crossover could be huge and unique to Nashville.
That feels like the long game, definitely. If they could actually pull that off, Nashville would have something LA can't easily copy. That deep-rooted music industry integrated with a burgeoning film sector. But we have to talk about the flip side. The potential downsides of such rapid growth for Nashville itself.
Oh, absolutely. That's a critical piece. When a huge industry moves into a city that fast, things change. And, well, not always in ways that benefit everyone who already lives there. What are the big risks?
The main worries are usually around affordability and just strain on the city. Nashville is already booming, right? Housing is already tight. Now imagine adding hundreds, maybe thousands, of film workers needing temporary housing, often earning higher wages brought in from outside. That puts immediate, intense pressure on rents, on home prices. It can really squeeze out longtime residents. And then there's the strain on, basic city services, utilities, traffic, roads. Plus, there's often a cultural element, too. We've seen this in other places that became film towns. Sometimes there's resistance from locals. They worry about Hollywood influence, whatever that means to them. They might resist the changes to their city's character, the hassle of location shooting, the feeling that outsiders are taking over. Managing that social side, that integration, is just as vital as pouring concrete for sound stages.
Yeah, that tension between the economic boom and preserving the local feel, it's a classic story. And it's also important, like our forces point out, to remember this potential exodus has limits. We shouldn't get carried away thinking every production is suddenly going to pack up and leave California, no matter how good the deal is elsewhere.
Exactly. Need to stay realistic. Some projects are just too deeply embedded in LA. Think about certain flagship shows or established movie franchises. The specialized post-production houses they use, the specific talent agencies, the massive experienced crews who all live on the West Coast. Moving all of that, dismantling those networks. Sometimes the cost and hassle just outweigh the tax savings. The example used was Big Little Lies. That kind of show, with its very specific needs and West Coast setting, it's probably never leaving California. So if you're trying to understand the core conflict here, for you, the listener, it's this constant push and pull. On one hand, the undeniable lure of state-backed economic growth, which film production absolutely brings, but on the other hand, the absolute necessity for huge, expensive, and sometimes controversial investments in infrastructure, plus managing the impact on the local community. It's a really high-stakes gamble, politically and economically.
Absolutely. So to sum it up, we see the evidence. Real productions happening, big names driving it, the Atlantic comparison setting a high bar. If Nashville plays its cards right, invests heavily in infrastructure, and manages the local impact, it could genuinely become more than just the music capital. It could be a movie capital, too.
Which leaves us, and you, with that final big question from the sources. Does Nashville truly evolve into a lasting rival production hub, one fueled by its unique music film blend? Or does it just become another successful stop along the way, another state offering great incentives for a while, always vulnerable when the next better offer comes along from somewhere else? That question of permanence versus just being a temporary hotspot, that's what we'll all be watching in the years ahead.